Baldwin was preparing for his next scene, a shootout inside this wooden church. Set the scene right before that happened. You're sitting in a pew in the church.
Right.
What's the scene supposed to be?
The scene is the two guys are there who have got me, cornered, and they think I'm shot pretty bad, and I'm kind of wilting, and they have a gun, and the sound outside distracts them, and I then draw the gun cross-draw out of my holster, pull the gun up like that, and start to cock the pistol. Cut.
Okay.
I'm handed a gun, and someone.
Keep in mind, I talked about this yesterday. This is a blocking rehearsal. They're not filming. He's just going through the rough motions. They're trying to make sure that the cameras are going to capture that people are standing where they're supposed to be standing, for example, and the cameras are capturing them, and the lighting's going to be okay. Everybody knows where they're supposed to step. That's what blocking is. The actors moving from one position to another position and doing rough approximations of the physical movements that they'll be doing. There's no need to have a gun here for this. There's no need. There's no need for anything to be in the cylinder of that gun. Not dummy rounds, not blank rounds, nothing. There's no need to point the gun directly at Halyna Hutchins. There's no need to cock the hammer. None of that is necessary here.
Someone declares, they said, this is a cold gun.
Dave Halls.
The first AD. In my year.
So keep in mind, there's 3 states, well, 4 states, unfortunately. 4 states the gun could be in, right? The cylinders could be completely empty, which on a single action revolver takes seconds to check. You just half cock the hammer, open the loading gate, spin the cylinder. It just free spins, and you can see through the cylinders, the chambers in the cylinder. You see clear through them. Nothing's in there. No brass at all. That's about as safe as you can make a gun, right? Maybe under that circumstance, you might be willing to point the gun at somebody, but certainly not until you've done that. And the moment that gun leaves your hand, comes back into your hand, you check it again. So that's one state, completely empty. The next state is there's dummy rounds in there, inert dummy rounds. They don't do anything. They just appear to be real bullets. And those are the ones that have a hole drilled in the side, or they have a spring or a ball bearing inside. You could shake them and hear it clanging around, rattling, or they're missing the primer. Those are inert. Those are harmless. And the way you ensure that's all that's in the gun is you take each one of those out. Now, if there's no primer, you can just do the cylinder spin again and just click, 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 click. There's no primers in the gun. If there's no primers, that's not a round that can be fired, even if it has a bullet on the front. Or you take them out, 6 rounds, they push out in a couple seconds, you look for the hole or you listen for the rattle, you load them back into the gun, and as long as that gun is still in your hand, you can be confident that it's only got dummy rounds in it. But if you don't check that there's only dummy rounds in it, you don't know what's in that gun. And the third state is there could be blanks in it. Now, blanks are cartridges that have a case, a primer, gunpowder, but they don't have a bullet. They're crimped at the front instead of a bullet. And of course, you can just visually see that there's no bullet on the front and ensure. Now, you may have to take them out of the cylinder to do that. In theory, I guess you could just kind of angle the gun and peer into the front of the cylinders and see that they're all crimped. Got to be careful of muzzle direction if you're going to do that. Or you take them out and you look at them in your hand and you see they're all crimped and you put them back into the gun and you know you have blanks. In this case, the gun was not supposed to be fired. There was no call for blanks. So there should have been no blanks in the gun. No rounds or primers should have been in the gun. And then the fourth state, of course, is there could be live ammo in the gun, which is obviously what happened here. Now, that should never happen. But the only way to know for certain that there's no live ammo in the gun is to check.
Years on the sets of film, hot gun meant that there was a charge in there, and cold gun meant there was nothing in there. When he's saying this is a cold gun, what he's saying to everybody on the set is you can relax. The gun is empty.
So David Halls will testify, has said that he only did a very cursory examination of the gun, of the ammo in the gun. Now, of course, Hannah Gutierrez should have made a thorough inspection of the gun. We don't really know what happened between the gun leaving her hands and getting into Alec Baldwin's hands because we have this intermediary of David Halls handling the gun. Now, do I think he loaded a live bullet in the gun? No, of course not. But might they have been rushing to film the set while the light was good, while they're on a low budget. They lost their film crew. They had to hire another film crew. They only have a certain number of days to film. They got to get this movie done. Can't have an incomplete movie. There's no time to waste. Hannah, come on, get me that gun. And she didn't have time to do an inspection. Now, a mature armorer would say, no, you're going to have to wait. Safety first. But a 24-year-old, least powerful person on the set, only her second job, she can't afford to make demands like that or have to back up a demand like that by or I'll quit.
That's what cold gun means.
Well, cold gun means there's no charge in there. There could be dummy rounds.
A dummy round looks like a real bullet, but is completely inert. It contains no explosive charge.
Halls took a plea. David Halls took
And you were rehearsing that.
Sorry. Halls took a plea to negligent handling of a firearm. He was sentenced to 6 months unsupervised probation, basically.
Scene. Was it an actual rehearsal? There's some disagreement about that, whether it was a formal rehearsal at that time.
This is a marking rehearsal where I'm going to show her. She's standing next to the camera.
So that's what's also commonly referred to as a blocking rehearsal. So they're not speaking their lines, for example. They're not replicating what'll be filmed. So you do the blocking rehearsal, you check the cameras, the lights, the positions, making sure all that's right. Then you may do a rehearsal where they're actually speaking lines like you're going to be doing when you're filmed, and then you film it.
She's like this, you or me. She's got a monitor here. The camera is here filming that way. She takes a monitor that is his monitor, the operator, and turns it toward her. It swivels, and she says to me, hold the gun lower. Go to your right. Okay, right there. All right, do that. Now show it a little bit lower. And she's getting me to position the gun. Everything is in her direction. She's guiding me through how she wants me to hold the gun for this angle. And I draw the gun out, and I find a mark. I draw the gun out, I find a cut.
Now, is it a legal defense for Alec Baldwin to say, I was just doing what she told me to do? No. If she'd said, I need you to fire a bullet an inch past my head, and he did that and missed by an inch and shot her in the head, does he get a waiver of criminal liability because she told him to do that? No, he's responsible for what he does. He's not a robot. If he's creating an unjustified risk of death or serious bodily injury, you don't get a free pass because someone else told you to do it. You're responsible for what you do.
And what's really urgent is the gun wasn't meant to be fired in that angle.
So if you're shooting directly into the camera lens, you're not aiming.
I'm not shooting into the camera lens. I'm shooting just off.
Just off.
Right.
Yeah, at Helena Hutchins. So he's saving the camera. He doesn't want to endanger the camera with the muzzle. Heaven forbid, you would never do that. You aim a little off the camera at the cinematographer.
In her direction. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it, which ended up being aimed right in below her armpit. It was
I mean, other than the head, I guess, being shot armpit to armpit is about as bad as it gets, right across your chest, right? Both lungs and the heart.
what I was told. I don't know.
He doesn't know.
This was a completely incidental shot, an angle that may not have ended up in the film at all. But we kept doing this. So then I said to her, now in this scene, I'm going to cock the gun. And I said, do you want to see that? And she said, yes. So I take the gun and I start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger.
You think if you're pointing a gun at another human being and you're going to be cocking the hammer in a single action, that you wouldn't check to make sure? Again, nothing is supposed to happen. There's no flash. There's no reason to have anything in the gun in this blocking rehearsal.
Trigger. I said, do you see that? She goes, well, just cheat it down and tilt it down a little bit like that. And I cock the gun. I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off. I let go of the hammer of the gun goes off.